Shabbat Shalom. This week we read Parshat Pekudei, the last parsha in the book of Shemot. I have to admit that I've never been particularly attracted to this parsha because it seems to be repetitious. Most of the details that are given in the last two parshiot of Shemot, the Vayakhel Pekudei, which are often read together, have already been given earlier in the parshiot of Truma and Tetzaveh, the instructions for building the Mishkan and all the vessels that were in the Mishkan. And of course, there are some explanations showing a deep meaning to this repetition. For example, the Ramban tells us that the original mitzvah that we were given to build the Mishkan, this great zchut, this great privilege of having a sanctuary in which the Shekhinah will dwell, was canceled after the sin of the golden calf. And so it was another great act of kindness on the part of Kadosh Baruch Hu to renew the covenant, to again allow us or tell us to go ahead and build the Mishkan. And so these parshiot are not simply repeating material that's come before, but they're actually giving us a new, renewed mitzvah to build the Mishkan. But still, it seems fairly repetitious. But now, preparing for this week's reading, I see that there is real good reason for having these parshiot. To begin with, let's talk about the word pekudei. What does the word mean? In biblical Hebrew, it basically means accounting or counting. The whole book of Bamidbar is called Chomesh HaPekudim because it has a census count of the Jewish people several times. It's full of numbers. How many in this tribe, how many in that tribe, how many in that camp, how many in this camp. And so also here, the Pekudim, it's basically an accounting by Moshe for the funds, the donations that he received for building the Mishkan. And there's a very good reason for his doing this. The Mishkan was basically financed, if you want to call it that way, by donations. The first parsha that talks about the Mishkan is called Teruma. Teruma in Hebrew means a contribution. The Jews were asked to contribute valuables. In those days, there wasn't, digital currency or even paper currency. They were asked to bring in gold and silver objects and other materials, costly materials that went into the Mishkan, and they responded in an overwhelming manner to the point where Moshe had to tell them, okay, we've got enough. Now, human nature being such as it is, when the leaders ask, to contribute gold, silver, and other precious objects, and a huge amount is amassed, someone's going to say, well, who knows if some of this didn't, get lost along the way into someone's pockets. It's just human nature. We see it happen all the time in government, and people may have been wondering, did Moshe really need to use all of this material, these tremendous amounts of gold and silver to build the Mishkan? And so, in this parsha, Pekudei, Moshe gives an account, a financial account, a balance sheet. He simply counts up the quantities of material that he received and used to show to the people of Israel that here's a full accounting of the donations I received, the materials that you brought, and how it was used to build the Mishkan. Of course, there's no suspicion at all against Moshe. Kadosh Baruch Hu, God says about Moshe, B'chol beiti ne'amanhu. Ne'aman, he's trustworthy. He's totally trustworthy. He's a person who didn't ask anything for himself. But there's an iron principle in Jewish leadership. V'yitem nekiim me'Hashem u'meYisrael. You have to come clean, not only before God. God, who knows everything, will know if you've been acting honestly or not. But you have to come clean before the people, even those people who tend to be suspicious. And so you can't even have something that looks like a financial mishandling. This is one of the reasons why rabbis were told not to buy things on credit or something. Or so Moshe set an example here. He gave here a full accounting, and again, in line with the halacha, it wasn't enough simply to give on his own and swear this is I affirm here, I sign here the bottom line that this is true to the best of my knowledge, a true accounting. You have to have someone else co-sign it with you. So Elazar ben Aaron Kohen, Itamar was co-signing this account to make sure that everything was totally above the table, in the open, and absolutely certified as honest. And this is, again, another great example of the Torah's stringent demands, especially among our leaders. And Moshe Rabbeinu b'chol beiti ne'amanhu, Moshe Emet, v'Torato Emet. Thank you very much, and Shabbat Shalom.